Welcome to today's episode of The Balanced CEO, where we're aligning your health, your wellness, your purpose, your profits, all of the things. I am so glad that you are tuning in on this amazing day, wherever this podcast finds you. I am thrilled that you are here. Today, we're talking about a very, very special topic. Like, this is something that is going to be so yummy. I personify everything as delicious, but today is going to be exceptionally good. We're talking about what you want to do when you want to quit. We're talking about overcoming weight loss frustrations as a purpose driven entrepreneur. Y'all know this is my jam. I love it. It's who God created me to be. You are in for such a delicious treat, but we're talking about what do you do when you just feel like quitting? Hey there, beautiful soul, and welcome back. I just want to encourage you, even in this moment, like if you are in a place where you just feel like you're stuck, right? Or you are embarking on a new healthcare regimen, like you're just ready to just get your body in line, you're ready to just prove yourself, so to speak. I'm not even talking about anybody else. You're just at a place where you're just ready to just dive right into getting your health back. You just want to align your mindset. You want to get back so that you can fulfill, right? The call, the mission, the purpose, and the plan that God has for you. Why? So that you can show up more fully and create the impact that you know God has designed and decided for you to do and to create on the planet. So today we're diving into a real struggle, and I know that many of you face this because many of you talk to me all the time about it. And that's wanting to quit when you want to lose weight or when things get hard. If you've ever felt like I'm just done, I'm over it. Sometimes people say I'm throwing in the towel, you're just waving your white flag. Or, you're just at a point where you're just like, I'm over it. Right? Maybe you feel like grabbing the cookies and just saying, forget it. I think we've all been there. Now, if that sounds like you, if you've ever said that, or you've heard somebody say it, matter of fact, it wasn't you, then I want to tell you and encourage you that this episode is for you. You will not be disappointed. So let's get into it. So, what does this really look like, right? And how does it actually sneak up on you and why it happens? And most importantly, I love to give the issues, I love to give why it happens because I'm a science girl, but I also don't leave you that way. I want to show you what to do about it and how to shift up out of it, if that sounds like you. So, what does this actually look like when you're on the verge of like actually quitting? It's a lot of times we think that it's like extra dramatic. Like we just think like, those movies where they're just literally waving that white flag like they're stranded on the island, although it may feel that way, but it's not always that dramatic. And sometimes it could be like a little bit subtle. And it could look like, for example, if you've decided to start working out, maybe you're getting your 10,000 steps in, maybe you've committed, you've said to yourself, I'm going to start working out. I'm going to, start get my fitness routine back. I'm going to head to the gym. I'm going to start doing things. And, maybe it looks like just skipping out on a workout for the day, right? And then tomorrow, and then the next. It could also show up in the form of emotional eating, maybe after a stressful meeting or maybe a stressful email. Maybe it can show up like telling yourself, maybe it's just not the right time for me. This is where I struggled for so long, for many of you who know my story and some of you don't, but I love repeating the story because it's where a lot of you are. Right. And you may not need to lose 120 something pounds like I did, but you may need to lose your first 20. And that is where this podcast is going to tremendously bless you because you're probably in the thick of things right now as we're speaking, as you're listening to this podcast. Maybe you're like, Tiffany, it just seems like when I go 2 steps forward, I just, the devil knocks me back 4 steps. Or, you're telling yourself, maybe it's just not the right season. It's just not the right time. It just seems like, maybe your marriage just is struggling. Maybe it seems like things are not changing and you're working so hard. And I feel you. Maybe you could be telling yourself, I keep setting the same goals and it just seems like I'm struggling over and over and over again. It seems like I don't really follow through, right? I think we've all been there. Could show up by comparing yourself to someone else who looks like they have it all together. right? And then you start making their success mean that you're defeated, right? Come on, somebody. Come on. I know I'm preaching. It shows up in self sabotaging behaviors wrapped in perfectly, right? Reasonable excuses. I can't. I'm tired. I travel all the time. I'm trying to build my business. I'm trying to build my brand. And, I get it. We, as purpose driven entrepreneurs, we are juggling a lot of things, right? And business, oftentimes for us, it can feel very, very heavy. Maybe you are working in the ministry. Maybe you're building a business on the side as you're working on your ministry. Maybe you're working full time for someone else. Health often, usually in those situations, becomes just something that it literally just gets slid to the side because there are so many other things that you need to take care of. Not because you don't care, but because quitting feels easier than facing the discomfort. Now, listen, I've been there, so I feel you. This desire to quit doesn't stay isolated to your weight loss journey. I'm going to tell you it one more time. This desire to quit, woman of faith, and I call you a woman of faith all the time because you still believe in God. Doesn't matter what the scale says. You still believe in God. Doesn't matter what the relationship is doing. You're still a woman of faith. It does not matter if you are in your wealthy place. Doesn't matter. But the desire to quit doesn't stay isolated to your weight loss journey. Let me tell you what happens. It seeps into how you start showing up everywhere. You're hesitant to show up on video, maybe because you're unhappy with the way you look. But this was my story. I can remember a time where I was summoned, and I say, to do certain projects, but I was so my self-esteem was just like tanked to the ground. I just was not confident in myself in a lot of areas. It felt like imposter syndrome, right? Because maybe in 2018 I hadn't lost all my weight, but I will say this, or I did lose my weight, but what was happening was my mindset didn't all the way catch up with who it is that I had become. So the scale weight had gone and my mind didn't necessarily catch up with it, so I was still struggling on the inside of me. We're talking about mindset, y'all. And so it looked like, I'm trying to coach other women in health, but it's like I always felt like I was supposed to be somewhere else. It felt like I wasn't the true person, as if I didn't achieve the very results, right? That I was working towards. The enemy is very subtle. He will always play tricks on your mind to make you think that you should be further along, to make you think that you're just not doing it right, to make you think that it's not working. It's too hard. I don't know how to do it. I should be there. Why do they get there first? I shouldn't have to deal with this. He will do all of these things just trying to make you struggle in private. We're getting after it today. We are getting into it. No rock unturned, because it's time for God's daughters to be free. The Bible says, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. You may be avoiding being visible for your brand because your confidence is tied to the number on the scale. I see this so often, and it's so subtle. Or maybe your energy is dipping, right? Affecting your productivity and your clarity and your creativity. That was a big one for me. It creates such a ripple effect where your health challenges silently sabotage your purpose. When you are in a place where you don't feel good about you and the confidence is an issue, right? You can't do anything but self sabotage. In my coaching practice, we do a lot of work on how to create your epic identity. You cannot pour new wine in old wineskins. What do I mean? In order for you to walk in who God destined and predestined for you to be and to do and to have, from the beginning, the Bible says that God eulogized us. He said for us to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish the earth. Why? So that we could have and we could subdue the earth, right? Have dominion. Sorry. It's what God called us to do and to be, who he called us to walk in. Well, in order for you to do that, you have to first interrupt what it is that you are even believing in the first place. We do a lot of work in this in my coaching practice. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, if you're just tired of walking day in and day out, self-sabotaging, you're not following through with you want to make sure that you sign up for a discovery call and we can talk about some of the things that will tremendously benefit your life so that you can keep walking out your power and in power of who God called you to be. This is the most dangerous part, the self sabotage, your purpose, right? Because you have a call on your life. Romans 8 and 29 says that you've been called, right, to be changed and converted into the same image of who God called you to be. You can read it, Romans 8. The dangerous part about this is if you convince yourself that quitting is an option, it's not a smart move at all because there are people attached to your win. It's all a disguise and it's fear based and it's not of God. So let's get into the root of why this happens. Let me give y'all three big reasons. One, the first is unrealistic expectations. You expect instant results in a world that quickly gives results or quick wins. When the scale doesn't move fast enough, your brain screams Ozempic. When the scale doesn't move fast enough, your brain screams BBL. This isn't working. Whatever y'all say, I hear it. I hear it. As a clinical pharmacist of many, many years, so many women, not just women of faith, yes, they are included, but listen, this runs the gamut. Everybody has this mindset. I think when I was losing my weight, there was no Ozempic or Manjaro, but let me tell you, I was thinking about duct tape or whatever else I could do to help me make progress, right? And so even when your progress is slow, you're exhausted, right? And you just want to say things like, this isn't working. Number two, all or nothing thinking. Like you believe everything has to be perfect in order for you to succeed, right? One bad meal, one donut, one cookie, one crepe, one helping of, I don't know, it could be chicken Alfredo with extra cheese or, Sicilian sliced pizza, candy, it could be chocolate, maybe Snickers bars, one bad meal, one missed workout, and you're spiraling out of control. Or you say things like, I've just failed, or I just might as well quit. This is called all or nothing thinking. These are the people that have a slice of pizza and the world is ending, right? If they're no longer, they think in their minds that the world is ending and they will never lose the weight. Three, emotional overload. Maybe you're just carrying too much weight from your business, your relationships, your personal life. And so food becomes comfort. Quitting feels like relief, but I'm going to tell you, it is so temporary. I struggled with comfort eating for so long. I during the time of being my heaviest, I was definitely a true emotional eater in every sense of the word. If I was looking for comfort, food was definitely a vibe for me. And I want to tell you, remember, this struggle is not a sign of failure, but it's just a sign of being human, right? And so with that being said and giving you that information, showing you how it shows up in your life, how does, wanting to quit, what does that even look like for you so that you can identify, woman of faith, where you are? Here's the good news, because I'm not leaving you there. And I want to remind you that you're not stuck. But here's how you can literally pivot when you feel like quitting. Number one, shift from outcome to identity. We do a lot of work in identity because it is super important. Stop obsessing over the 20 pounds, right? Is what you're going to lose. Hands down, it's going to happen for you in my coaching practice. If you need help on what to eat, how to eat, and listen, this is another thing, just a side note. If you think that you have to give up the foods that you love, the relationships that are centered around going out to eat, if you feel like you can't live a normal life because you want to lose weight, y'all need to come see me. We need to just nip this in the bud and get you on target, on strategy, so that you can live this abundant life and do it in a body that supports you and serves the call on your life. Stop focusing on becoming a woman start focusing on and becoming a woman who honors her health daily. Day in and day out, I hear women of faith struggling about, what do I eat? Oh my gosh, I had the chip. Now I can't eat all day. And so then you get into this punishment cycle of you did something bad. And so now you're in condemnation, right? The Bible says there is therefore now no condemnation. So even in this moment, if you're not where you want to be, you had an amazing Mother's Day and you overindulge, or you ate something off plan, or you ate something that you shouldn't have. I just want to remind you of your position as a believer. There is now no condemnation to those who walk upright before God. And so in those moments, if you do, um, when you're looking to shift from outcome to identity, you just want to ask yourself, what would be the healthiest version of me today? You know, I do, again, a lot of work with my clients on identity and what that feels like and what that looks like. Because in order for you to come into something, you have to know where you are. It's just like a GPS system. When you're going to a location, you can't just say I'm going here and get directions. You need coordinates to where you are. And so we do a lot of work with that. What do you need to do to live your healthiest version of you today? Two, embracing your good enough actions. So often the enemy is, what is it? The devil's in the details, I think. That's what that saying is. Perfection is the enemy of progress. A lot of times we're slow to move out on what it is that we want to do or what we desire to do as it relates to our health and wellness because it's not perfect, right? And so instead of aiming for a perfect workout or a perfect meal plan, aim for just movement. I have a coaching client and we are working on 10,000 steps a day. Now, the reason why I set that bar so high is because you and I walk every single day, and you'll be surprised how those steps add up. Did you know that if you walk 10,000 steps a day, you could add losing an extra 2 pounds a week on top of adjusting and only eating when you're hungry and stopping when you're full and eating more healthier choices? What? I know. Step three, reframe quitting as a learning opportunity. When you want to quit, listen, just pause and ask, what is going on for me right now? I call it having your own back, which is so important. A lot of times as purpose shift entrepreneurs, we know real good, right? How to just trample over how we're feeling, how to move on to the next moment, how to just just skate on through. Like we're very, very good at that, right? Four, create emotional resilience habits. Your business teaches you to be strategic and patient. Apply that same effort to your health. Journal your triggers. We do a lot of journaling. Practice just living, breathing into the moment, finding out what's true for you. And then gather yourself a non-food coping strategy. This took me a long time to unwind, even in my own life, because again, food was comfort for me. And I wrote a book called How to Live a Life with No Desire for Chocolate Cake. It's a smart girl's blueprint to weight loss made easy. And I wrote a memoir called Big Mama's Table. And most of us can relate to Big Mama's table with all the fixings, all the helpings, all the mac and cheese, all the things that are on a Big Mama's table, and how, using these comfort foods brought us a lot of joy. We were gathered around, we were fellowshipping, and all of it, right? And so finding ways to unravel that, leaning into how to cope with what is going on in your life emotionally and in your mind that is not fruit related is going to be so helpful. Five, connect to your bigger purpose. Your health journey isn't just about a smaller dress size, even though that's cute. I love it. Size six all day. It's about having the stamina and confidence. Listen, I'm being so straight up and honest. If you need to get vain in this moment, get vain, baby. Like I can remember a time where I wasn't a size six since I was six, and that's the only thing I could think of when I was heavy, six, it just was not even in my sphere of thought, right? It wasn't even like an atom or like it wasn't even a thought, right? And so connecting back to your purpose, it's again, health isn't just about dress size. It's about having the stamina and the confidence and energy that you need to live out your God-given purpose. And I can tell you that when you stay connected to that purpose, when you want to quit, it feels less tempting to quit, right? And so I can't tell you how important this podcast is. Like, if you want to share it, you want to rewind it, you want to make sure that you are just listening literally to the words when you feel like quitting, because we're just living in a day and time where quitting is easy because there's one, so much going on, and then two, you are trying to accomplish a lot in your God-given purpose. So this podcast is definitely for you. So the next time you feel like quitting, just remember it's not about willpower, it's about aligning. Aligning what, Tiffany? Aligning your habits with the woman that you were called to be, not someday, but today. If this episode spoke to you, listen, I have something so special and unique for you. I created a free newsletter called the Balanced CEO Wellness Newsletter. I know that you will definitely enjoy it. Each week, I send you like practical mindset shifts and simple, healthy habits and encouragement to stay committed to your health journey while growing your purpose driven business. This is huge. Now, if you want a way to find it, I'm going to try to drop the link in the show notes. If not, it can be found, the link, at the Elevated Life Coach School.com. If you head to the middle of the page, you can sign up for the Balanced CEO newsletter. It's wellness newsletter. It's really, really good. You're not quitting this time, woman of faith. You are rising. So thank you for spending time with me. And until next time, listen, keep choosing you. And I'll see you in the next video. I'll talk to you soon.